may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back with a new episode.
Yeah, it's been a while, but when we come back with some pretty big news for at least for the Poker Podcast and what we've done.
I mean, definitely the biggest news, to happen to either of us, ever. You go ahead. I'm sure some people already know what happened, but you go ahead.
Yeah, so decided to do the Summer Poker Open over at Champions, definitely one of my favorite poker rooms. And they had a $1,500 buy-in main event, which there are probably some people being like, God dang, I didn't know Clint's bankroll would support that. It doesn't. I sold a little bit of action, but it did. It was something where I could shot take at something kind of like that.
How much bigger was this tournament compared to your normal buy-in, would you say? Let's talk about what's the biggest you've done, and then what's kind of the average that you've been doing until this shot take.
Man, until like a year or two ago, just mostly dailies and stuff, with every now and then like a $400 or $450 event. We know last year I final tabled the Texas Card House main event series that, and I got 7th, and that was an $800 buy-in.
I thought that $800 that was your biggest one before, right? Before this one.
I think so. I had planned to do a couple bigger ones during the WSOP, but when I made day 2 of the Gladiator,
they kind of the schedules conflicted, right? That was the whole thing. It was the Venetian $1,500 one that you wanted to do that then you couldn't do.
Yeah, it was definitely that one, and then also I think another $800 one in the WSOP, but I had never done anything. I think over 1,000.
Definitely nothing that I remember. This is by far the biggest one. And if you're going to run good, this is the one you're going to want to do it.
Oh, 100%. But I'd been running pretty good in tournaments so far. So it's something I wanted to. I'm mostly a cash game player, but I definitely wanted to kind of start sprinkling in tournaments here and there. And like I say, this one was stretching the bankroll a little bit, but it supported it just fine. If I bust out, especially because I sold action, obviously, to a couple people. The guy in front of me being one. So it kind of helped out to, I think, make it a little bit easier. But absolutely ran very good in the tournament. Obviously, a lot of people know I ended up taking 3rd place for $96,000. And it was kind of a crazy experience.
I'm sure whenever you first bought in, you were thinking you were going to be seeing, Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu. Just expecting all the pros of the pros whenever you bought in. How did it end up going?
I remember us talking beforehand about how pro-heavy I thought it would be. As the tournament whittled down, there were really, really good players. Like at the last 3 tables, it was really good. Overall, it was way softer than I ever thought a $1,500 tournament would be. A lot of, in the early stages, overplaying hands, a lot of things you would see, a lot of open limping, ton of cold calling. Everything that you would look for in a poker game was just happening all the time.
Here was kind of my theory on it whenever we were talking about it, whenever you were surprised. And my theory was, I think we all can agree that a majority of players are probably not winning players. You can agree with that?
100%.
Okay. So what I think is, a lot of these people are just successful in life. And we're just doing a $1,500 buy-in. I think you're going to play against a lot of the same people you play against in your $500 tournament, your $800 tournament. I think you get a lot of the same culprits, There's only so many people that play poker and play these tournaments that I think, assuming it was going to be full of pros, I think the pros definitely come out, compared to maybe your $50 free roll. But, that was kind of my thought, and I think I was pretty accurate, right?
You were 100% accurate. I had a different theory on it. And like I say, there were a lot of pros. Derek was there, a well-known grinder around Houston. Tamayo, the main event winner, was there. So there were a lot of I wouldn't say big name like Daniel DeGraw or like anything, but there are a lot of the well-known grinder pros that are around. But since I had moved up in the cash game so much, I was thinking, like, I have not seen the same dynamic in cash game, like where you just have a lot of people who are successful in life and they're just dumping money. You do see that here and there in like the 5-5, 5-10 and stuff like that. But it's usually 6 or 7 good players.
But do you think this also lends itself that tournaments are more fun? So you're going to have these people who are successful in life coming in to have a good time.
I think so. Yeah, now I absolutely do think so. Because everybody who's listened to this podcast knows that I've always said I think tournaments are way more fun than cash games. I just like the consistency of cash games, the flexibility of them. But if you're just looking to be enjoyable, I think there's nothing like making a deep run of saying, hey, even in a low buy-in tournament, there is a finality to winning a tournament that you'd never get in a cash game.
Oh, I mean, it still feels cool if you can come in first in a $10 tournament out of however many people. So, I mean, anytime you win, obviously feels good because both of us like competition. That's kind of what brought you to poker.
Yeah, well, and that's how I started. I mean, I was just like free rolls at free roll tournaments at bars and stuff. And I tell you what, you could never do that in a cash game because everybody'd be bored out of their mind if it was just a free cash game that everybody's going to put, bag up the chips afterwards. So yeah, I do think now, which makes me think, is there like a certain ladder to how you should approach poker if you're ever going to play for profit? Because we've always said cash games is the way you would go about it because you can actually make a profit at the lowest buy-ins. You can't do that in tournaments. The ROI is just too low and the rake is way too high. But once you get to a certain level, I think probably, I don't really know, I haven't put the math to it, but I would think the $300 to $500 level.
I think that's what everyone kind of, even stuff I've seen online, is everyone kind of says that 300 is kind of that sweet spot to where you kind of start tipping the scales a little bit more.
I mean, if you can start doing the higher buy-in events and get a softer game, I don't know, like there might be, everybody always still, debates cash game versus tournament, but I don't really hear that aspect debated all that much. So, but yeah, the tournament experience was really, really crazy to see, and like I say, had a blast. It was I actually went into it and started out doing really shitty.
I mean, par for the course. I mean, you've always seemed to go down and then fire right back. I mean, you have so many stories where you start off with, just getting whittled down to just battling back.
Yeah, luckily it was very deep. And with 40-minute levels, which was just so deep. And here's the crazy thing. I think 2 to 3 hours in, like, a third of the field was about gone.
Yeah, which kind of lends itself to that recreational, for fun kind of situation, because it seems kind of weird to bust out so deep.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is kind of crazy, but I end up, I don't think there were any horrible hands I got into. There were some draws that missed, and you make a bet, call, bad flop for you, stuff like that. Nothing that was crazy, but I got whittled down to like half the starting stack. Ended up getting a set of 8s to a set of 3s and doubled up through there. So that really helped out. Ended up getting the better of one of the guys who was a real nice guy, who was a really good player, but I just happened to be in position and just be getting really good hands where we had some 3 and 4 bet pot hands where it went my way. Later on, he would definitely, some would go his way, but in that early stages, I definitely helped me chip up.
I mean, pretty important whenever you get whittled down early.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, to have them go your way. I mean, how true is it that you have to run or get so lucky in so many spots in these tournaments to make these deep runs.
Oh, so many. I mean, there was a lot of coin flips where I really had to win to go. I mean, so part of it's luck and then part of it's skill. Like, there were areas where I would have either lost or maybe not won as much. I know one with, like, Jake, who was in the cutoff versus button. Yeah, probably cutoff versus button. And he ends up... No, I wasn't a blind. No, it's... Okay, I bet he 3-bets. And I have pocket jacks. And I end up 4-betting pocket jacks.
This is on day one?
Yeah, for all in. And he ends up folding. And I don't know what he had, but that's something where I would have never done before. And I don't remember the exact positions. It was either button versus cutoff or button versus a blind. So, I mean, which now I know the ranges can be way lighter to either 3-bet or 4-bet jam. So, ended up getting a better of that hand. Another one, I actually 3-bet ace king. It comes out, and then later, and then get 4-bet jammed on by the other big stack at the table. And it was kind of rough. Like, I don't fold ace-king hardly to much of anything, but this 4-bet jam was really... I mean, we were the two biggest stacks at the table. So I'm kind of like, well, what do I do here? But I had been 3-betting quite a bit, too, so I think that comes into play. And then later I was like, well, I'm at the top of my range. If he has aces or kings, it just is what it is. If he has anything else, there's enough money in this pot that I can justify getting it in 50-50. I call, he has jacks. I flop a king, and he's busted at that point.
Hey, man. Whenever you told me that hand, I didn't know the results, but I was like, wow, I mean, that's how you're going to go out. That seems like, I mean, a perfectly fine way to go.
Yeah, it was... Well, I put his range to, like, where he could do it with, like, 10s to queens. And, I don't know. I mean, like I say, at the amount I was 3-betting, like, good players are going to start to kind of go at me with their better hands. So, I felt like ace-king folding there would be a little bit weak. But, I mean, I tell you what. 50% of the time, I mean, that's me on the other end of that. So, luckily, I could win that flip at that point.
So, let's talk about, what was that feeling whenever you finally finished day one and made day two? I mean, because you played for so long.
Oh, God, it was so long that we played. Going day one, so one thing I do in tournaments that I think is a lot of people kind of mistake here is I do put a lot of emphasis on min caches. A lot of people, it seems like they almost try to go out on, because there's that stigma of like, well, you don't want to just play for a min cache. You don't, but they matter.
Oh, I mean, like you said, you never have a pay jump more important for making zero to money.
Yeah, and then the pay jumps are not big for a long time after that. So I do put a lot of importance. I tell you what, when it's $1,500 buy-in, put even more importance on that shit. But I came into that table, I think we were at 3 tables for a while, and then it goes down to 2 tables. But it took forever because, like I told you how a lot of people busted out early. Well, it's 40-minute blinds, so a lot of people had stacks.
Oh, right, because everyone busted out, so now everyone's twice as deep probably around.
Yeah, so it was kind of a battle for a long time and nothing happening. I went in as a pretty big stack. I had a big stack after that ace-king hand. I got ace-king up against queens and also held. And then, so I came in, like, those final couple tables pretty big, but I got whittled down pretty hard. Never that I was in such danger of not making day two, but once I probably got down to, like, the 40 blind level. So, I mean, that is kind of a danger. Because, I mean, you get wrapped up in the wrong hand, and all of a sudden you're like, you go from like the big stack where you're guaranteed going to make this to all of a sudden, sitting on the outside looking in, because 40 to 50 big blinds is kind of a dangerous territory.
Oh, no, 100%. You want to know something else I think you did that was, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but I think worked out very much in your favor, was doing a flight that was not so close to day 2 to give you some time in between. Because I'll tell you what, I mean, you played so much poker after day 2. I mean, you played for so long and then made day 3 and played for so long. I think having that time between day 1 and day 2 was a pretty good move.
Yeah, I did not plan it that way. You are correct, because I just think I had to work the other days. But it really did come into play. It definitely really helped, because people who don't play a lot of tournaments, it's different in the cash game when you can get up and just have the flexibility of doing whatever. But tournaments, each day was 12 plus hours, I think.
Definitely over 12.
So it was, that was a big factor, and it really did. I think that did really come into play and help. Especially, there wasn't a huge break between day 2 and day 3 either.
Just a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Just a little bit over 12.
Yeah.
That was a really tough turnaround.
So, it's it was a really pretty awesome experience. Like I say, went up against, it was way softer than I thought, but also played against, some really, really tough players as well.
Oh, but like I said, the pros are going to come out, obviously, for these big tournaments, but it is nice to see so many rec players also playing.
Yeah, for a buy-in event of that much, it's kind of shocking to me that the field was, because even when and this isn't something where I came in third, I'm like, oh, well, it was soft. Even when I was half of starting stack, I was like, I did not expect as much open limping, very little 3-betting, way too much cold calling. And all that. I did not see, I think a lot of tournament problems is when people don't jam light enough a lot of times. This tournament, I didn't see people doing that, but this tournament was a little bit different because it was so deep. So you are going to have less of that because you're just in that position less. But it was a pretty insane experience. An insane run. I have always kind of dreamed of having a big tournament score. I did not think it would be this big. For me, a big tournament score would have been 30,000, 40,000.
Even 20,000 would have been pretty phenomenal. 100%. Especially based on all the previous tournaments. Never even thought of it being this giant.
Yeah, and I'm not talking a whole lot about the final table was live streamed. I'm not talking a whole lot about it, because I think we are going to go in depth. I played a lot of controversial hands in the final table, and I think they make for pretty good breakdowns of. I'm not saying I played them right or wrong, but my reasoning that went behind why I played them. So there were a couple controversial hands there. So I'm not really going to go too much into the final table. But I will say it was crazy. It's insane to be playing with so much money at stake at every hand when you have the 9th place cashing at 21,000 and first place cashing at 215,000.
Oh, like we always say, tournaments are always just so bittersweet, because if you were to cash and say that you were going to win $21,000, we'd be high-fiving and say you for sure should go do it. But if you bust out 9th, you're so sad.
Oh, well, here's the thing, is I also went into the final table with the chip lead, which is great. But it also puts a whole new expectation.
Yeah, everyone was talking about it.
Then you're like, well, is this going to be the time I come in with a chip lead and then I'm just the dipshit who dogs it off and cashes for, like you say, it'd be different if you're like in the beginning and you're like, hey, 1,500, 21,000, will you take it? 100% yes. Very different when it's the absolute min that you can win and you come in with a fairly sizable chip. I was first or second going into the final table.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Everyone's like, I think Clint's a favorite to win. Than being ninth, just crying on the rail.
And trust me, it was definitely up for grabs. I mean, I tell you what, I took risks. I mean, it definitely was a possibility as well.
It is kind of crazy, though, that it's like, in these tournaments, like the blinds, once they start getting up there, being the chips, I mean, it obviously helps, but I mean, those swings come so violently that it's like, I mean, you can be the chip lead to 1 minute, the short stack, and then back to the chip lead all in 3 hands.
Oh, I mean, it damn near happened, really. I mean, it's I worked my way back from. I mean, I took obviously one of the worst beats.
Oh, I mean, we're saving it for next.
Yeah.
I mean,
but but I mean, it's whatchamacallit, kind of a. I'm trying to find the right words to explain it. Yeah, you get a lot more wiggle room.
Right. Yeah.
If you have a big chip stack, but like you say, I mean, even if you have 80 big blinds to someone else's 20 big blinds, well, if you lose an all-in pot to them, I mean, you're even now.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't think you're even yet, but you're very close.
Basically even, though. I mean, you're definitely not the dominating stack.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just had 4 times more than them. So, I mean, it's, like you say, the swings are so crazy, and a lot of people don't realize. Weirdly enough, I've played a lot of tournaments just because I used to play more for fun, and that was there. And I got a lot of experience on these tables just because I like playing them, and now, even before I was profitable. But I remember the chip, as the blinds go up, the chip lead matters, but like I say, it doesn't matter as much as it's given credit for.
I mean, a lot of people were still shocked that even after this win, you were profitable, you know?
Oh, I mean, no, hell, I never said that I was.
I mean, a lot of people were actually, I said he's about to be even for the year. So.
I mean, very, in the cash game, it's been an okay year for me, but it hasn't been all that great. I tell you what, it's crazy for that to turn around so quickly.
Okay, but I do have some hands for you. So while you're out there battling for the big bucks, I was in the 1-3 streets weeping. So, so I show up way early because I'm thinking like, this is about to be crazy. Then I get there, I'm like, I'm about to be here for like 16 hours actually. But so I sit down. I only brought 2 buy-ins because I'm like, well, I mean,
that's a lot of faith. What do you think you're going to be playing that long?
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, I mean, I better run. I mean, I'm going to be here forever. But okay. First hand, ace, king of spades. I raise. I 3-bet, get 4-bet jammed on. I call. He has ace, king of diamonds. Flop 2 spades, turn a spade. I win.
Oh, wow. What a win there.
Yep. So I'm like, 16 hours, just count it on down. I'm here now. So, same opponent, next hand. Like, literally like 2 hands later.
Okay.
Pocket aces. I'm like, wow. I mean,
it's going to be a great day.
I'm just going to take, I mean, Clint's tournament win is going to seem so small compared to my cash game win. So, pocket aces. I make it 50 pre-flop. I get 2 calls. The flop comes king of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 4 of clubs. I bet 125. I get 1 caller. The turn is the 5 of spades. I bet 300, and he jams all in.
Okay.
800 effective here.
800 effective, and what was your pre-flop hand again?
Aces.
Aces. Run it back again real quick for me, because
Pocket aces. I make it 50 pre-flop. That's not right. I made it 30.
I was wondering. I was like, that's a very big open unless it's a 3-bet.
Yeah, no, it was 30 because it was a straddle.
Okay.
I make it 30. My notes are a typo, but it's hard to type when you're crying. So I make it 30. I get 2 calls, and then I make it 125. That is the correct bet size.
That is the correct bet size?
The 125, yeah.
Okay. And give me the flop again.
King of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 4 of clubs.
Not a bad bet size. This would be something you could pretty much bet. I mean, pocket kings are not available because nobody re-raised you. You're only worried about king 10 and pocket 10s and pocket 4s, but there's a lot of draws that can call. I don't typically bet this big, but this is a time where I can kind of, because this is over pot, right?
Yeah.
I can kind of get behind this here.
I get 1 call. The turn is the 5 of spades. I bet 300.
125, 250, 34. Okay, so you bet just under pot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the safest cards in the deck. You're looking to get called by any big king. You're looking to be called by diamond. Or you're really, at this point, really not even looking to be called. You're looking to deny equity from
exactly.
queen, jack, and diamonds. Okay. I think I bet a little bit smaller here because I would think if you're trying to get called by a king, it's starting to get pretty rough for just the sizing. Diamonds and queen jack. I mean, I want them to call. I just want them to call at the incorrect odds.
We're laying them.
I mean, you're giving them way incorrect odds. I mean, I think so. I would bet a little bit smaller here, but I also don't think it's a mistake. I mean, I think it's still fine.
Do you call? Do you fold? I mean,
he jams on top.
Yeah.
Yes, I call.
Yeah, he had king 10 offsuit. He got all his money back.
This is one where I was just like, I don't think you should be getting stacked with aces for this amount here, but at the same token, I don't know where you get away from it either. I mean, on something that's so draw heavy.
Oh, I mean, and especially once I play with him even more to find out that, like, the more I play with him, the more I thought it was a correct call.
Yeah,
So,
okay. You did have bluffs, at least.
I mean, so many bluffs.
So,
I mean, he had so many bluffs, he would call with, I mean, well, shoot, next hand, I can tell you what he called with this time.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a rough hand on, like, I don't know where you really get away from this. It's very hard. Like, it's one thing if this is going like this on a really dry board, because then most people who are calling gigantic bets, there's going to be sets a lot of the time. But on boards like this where it's super wet, I mean, it could be sometimes an overplayed top pair. It could be a flush draw. I mean, and someone just decided to lose their mind, go with it or whatever. I mean,
And like I said, the more I played with the guy, the more I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Because he was that guy, but that's what happened that hand.
it's just, yeah, shitty luck to have aces and get 2 pair flopped on you.
But here we go. Here's the next hand that at least, now that I'm on my last buy-in, I get pocket queens. I make it 30. I get 4 callers. The flop is jack of spades, 4 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. Thinking pretty good flop for queens. So I bet 35. I'm out of position here. I'm in the small blind, actually. All right, no, I am. I get 2 calls. My notes. My next thing I said, I'm in the small blind. But so the very next card is the queen of spades, giving me top set. But now there's jack of spades, queen of spades, 4 of diamonds, 5 of hearts.
Okay, so no flush, no straight. I mean, you have the nuts.
No, I have the nuts.
Yeah.
I'm showing how many draws there are. There's now a flush draw on board and the same 4-5 straight draw.
Okay.
I actually check this.
This is weird.
I check. The next guy bets 100 and the next guy calls. Then I jam.
Well, shit, it worked out very well.
Yep, they both call. I only had 225 behind. So they both call. The river is a 7 of hearts One guy, the guy who won with the King 10 hand, he turned over a gut shot, and the other guy had the ace high flush draw. Worked out great for me.
Worked out good. I mean, I think. Well, here's the thing: is that when you check, you somehow got the gut. I guess the gut shot is the one who let out for 100, right?
No,
No,
that's the guy who called. That's what I'm saying. This guy was. I mean,
yeah, okay.
He claimed that he was down 3K in 3 days, or no, 6K in 3 days, and how much that was to be losing in a 1-3 game.
No, he's not wrong.
So,
I don't know about his play, but his math seems fucking spectacular.
yeah, he says, how do you do that? It's not like we're playing 25-50. He says, that's a lot of money to lose in 1-3.
I mean, preaching to the choir. Okay, well, that hand worked out really well. I thought it was kind of strange when you had the betting lead to check. Well, here, I would say this. What was your theory on checking the queen?
That they're going to bet I'm only 225 behind. It's going to be an easy jam. I mean, I had that one guy who called with the gut shot in the hand. You know he's betting.
Yeah, okay. I kind of like it. Well, this is going to go to a hand that I played. This is going to refer back to a hand that I played for next podcast. It's going to be kind of the same thing. But when you have top set, the problem being is when you are betting, like, what are you trying to get called by? And since you were the aggressor, you could be c-betting and represent ace, queen, king, queen, and get some folds, some kind of tight folds here and there. So I kind of like your play here.
Yeah, I was just more trying to spring the trap kind of situation where I was thinking like, well, if they do have a jack, the queen is not great for them. So that might be hard to get value from them. Also, the flush draws will probably bet. And I just don't want to look too strong because I don't want to end up not getting all the money in here.
I think it's an unorthodox line, but I do like that line. I do. I think you have good reasoning behind it. And here's the good thing is if they do bet, you're short enough that you're going to get called no matter what for the most part. Because, I mean, they're going to be getting odds for so much stuff.
Yeah. Those are basically the big hands. I ended up being up after that. And then I made a horrid bluff that, didn't even take notes on it. I mean, probably should have just chucked my phone across the room. But made one horrid bluff. The next hand, made another horrid bluff. Then I was down. That's not great. Then I got counterfeited 2 pair on my last hand to end up being down for the session. But I did make it a long time.
Well, you did.
I mean, when you had to be there for that long, but...
Here's a question. Like you say, 2 horrid bluffs. Were they bluffs that got called, or were they bluffs that should have never been made?
Well, both. If I wanted my money, but
Because I mean, I think it could be different. I think you can make a great bluff and they just call. I think also you could make a bluff and be like, well, it's just a shit situation for a bluff. I was just curious on what you thought.
Well, we broke it down. At least my theory was I could represent a jack to get him to fold. I mean, he had aces. So, I mean, not only was he not folding, he raised me, which if I had a jack would have been, I would have thought about folding the jack there myself. But,
that's going to be so confusing for the listeners because, I mean, all they hear is aces and a jack and a bluff. Okay.
So basically what happened was I got 3-bet with king, queen of diamonds. The flop came jack high with 1 diamond. Turn came the second jack of diamonds.
You were the 3-better, or he?
He 3-bet me.
Okay.
I called. The flop came jack high with 1 diamond. The turn was another jack, so I had to.
So I'm guessing draw. he bets small. You call flop.
Yes.
Okay.
Then he checks turn, which I thought it was weakness, like he was worried about a jack. And I was like, well, I could bluff this because I now have my diamond draw to back it up, and it's going to look like it could be a jack too. Was my thought. So I bet big. He calls. Complete brick on the river, but I'm like, well, I would be checking all my jack high flops to him. So now whenever he checks, or I would be calling. So then whenever he checks the turn, that would be my shot for weakness, is what I was thinking. So I could now he's going to put him in a spot here, because now I have the diamond draw to go with it, and I can be repping this jack. So no matter what the river is, I'm going to be blasting off here, was my thought. missed the diamond. I bet 300 on the river. He raised. And I was like, I mean, what am I up against? Quads? Like, what is happening? What's he raising with? I snap fold and he shows pocket aces.
I like the fold when he raised. Well, I mean, you had king high, but it's
sick read, dude.
Yeah. Tyler's like, I put him on above king high.
Yeah.
I soul read him on the river.
But I did like the fold too.
I do like the bluff on the turn. I think the bluff on the turn makes all kinds of sense. You can get a lot of his Broadway aces. You can get some of his aces to fold. A lot of his suited. He's got a lot of stuff that does not that has showdown value against you, but he can't call. So yeah, I think you're lacking showdown value. You have equity. I love that bluff. I don't know if you should, especially when you bet big on the turn, because once you bet. It's one thing if you bet small on the turn and he calls and you blast river, but once you bet big turn, I think river is starting to get very dicey what you're trying to get fold. I think the only thing you can try to get a fold from on river at that point is an ace-high flush draw.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was not... I mean, that's what happened. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's just my analysis of it. I think you do have some showdown value against some shittier flush draws, maybe.
Here's the problem.
But he 3-bets you, so unlikely.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I get 3-bet by. I didn't know, but definitely that was the first hand I played with him. But after we played more hands, guess how many hands he 3-bet?
That one.
That is one. Yeah, that was
makes sense. Yeah,
the only 3-bet of the night from him that I remember. So if I would have, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but that's what happened. So
yeah,
and then get counterfeited with a 2-pair on a different hand. So I mean,
yeah,
that one is as easy as it gets.
Yeah, that one that's not that interesting. That one just kind of played itself. So it's a shitty cash game session, but I like my session way better. So I mean, it's you know what, if you have to have a shitty cash game session for me to have a great tournament run, we'll take that.
Oh, I mean, the podcast. I mean, our net worth, the podcast net worth blew up. Not so much. But I guess so next week we're going to try to break down some of the actual hands from the live stream. And you can go to Champions YouTube and watch some of the hands if you want before or after the next episode.
Yeah, because I got a lot of criticism on some of the hands, and I do think some of it deserved, but I do think the reasoning was pretty sound on a lot of it as well. So it should be pretty. I think it should be pretty good to break down because I think it could be debatable either way on if they were played correctly or not.
It was funny. I told somebody, I was like, we all sit here critiquing his play on the stream. I'm like, he's probably thinking like, do I want advice from all the dudes who already busted out? I'm like, we all sit here talking trash about how he's playing. We're all the suckers already busted out early.
Well, some of those suckers are probably pretty good players who just got, you have to get so lucky.
No. You won third, you're the best.
Well, in that case, 2 from the best.
Yeah, see? But no, I just thought it was funny because I was just telling one of the dealers because it's like me and her were talking about it, just like how it's funny how, everything is easy to break down when you see both hands and everything.
I mean, you see the whole cards. You could have a great breakdown of exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah, that was just kind of more what we meant. Like, it's just funny, like, people who are busting out, then you can go and watch. And then it's so easy once,
Yeah. No.
So.
It's but yeah, it was, so yeah, but yeah, I think next podcast will be good. I thought this one be more interesting for just the experience of having a deep tournament run, and...
I mean, updating the computer, making sure everything still works. Yeah.
Yeah, shit. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like, does it even exist anymore? Every podcast, we're like, the podcast is still going, y'all. We're going to be firing away. And then we're like, 4 months later, we're like, well, hey, guys.
It's like we never left.
So it's a...
Well, we can guarantee this. If Clint takes down around 100,000, we will record an episode. That's good.
I mean, probably not for the life of the podcast, but if the podcast keeps going, great for me.
Yeah, so I guess on that note, next week we'll cover some of the more interesting actual hands. Figure we just kind of skim over it today, and we'll break down some of the more interesting final table hands next podcast. On that note, we'll talk to you next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.